looked at the project and said, oh, it's got 6.72, they're fine. But in looking at the land use is what rules. So a project has to meet the land use, and so for this reason, the applicant is requesting a land use amendment from low, medium, or actually to low, medium density residential, and this permits up to 10 dwelling units per net buildable acre. And they meet that, because the density that they're basing it on is 1.6 acres. So they've removed 0.78 acres from the project, basically, that is for their pond and other non-residential areas. So if approved, the applicant, however, will be restricted by their zoning to 7 dwelling units an acre. There's site information in your staff report. I won't go over every item unless you have something specific you'd like to go over. With regard to zoning and land uses, there is a sheet called zoning and land use table that shows what the current zoning is, but what the zoning surrounding the parcel are. But it is noteworthy that the project contains single-family homes on 3 sides, but it also has commercial uses directly across the street, and it abuts an apartment complex in the city of Daytona that zone multifamily residential on a parcel that now allows up to 20 dwelling units an acre. And so, in fact, if you look in the what's up now, just down at the bottom or south, you'll see it's not a colored area where the arrow is, but the other, just under the arrow, you'll see some apartment buildings there. That's actually in the city of Daytona. So the amendment's also been analyzed in terms of infrastructure impacts. When we consider a change of land use, an analysis comparing the maximum development potential under each land use and available capacity is required. We look at impacts to traffic, potable water, wastewater, solid waste. All of those have been summarized and analyzed. When it comes to transportation, going from low-density residential to low-medium-density residential would create an increase in average daily trips in 73 trips. There'd be an addition of 73 trips. When it comes to water and wastewater demands, there would be an increase of 6,000 gallons per day. When it comes to potable water and sewers, each one, there'd be an increase of 6,000 gallons per day, going from the low-density residential to low-medium-density residential. However, our plant does have the capacity to absorb that increase. When it comes to school concurrency, the applicant has applied for a finding of adequate capacity with the school board, and this will be required before the amendment is able to go to second reading with the City Commission. But for comparative purposes, there was a recent finding of adequate capacity for another project, Anastasia Court, that showed 17 units would generate 3 students. And this project proposes 16 units. So they're in process, kind of at the mercy of the pace of the school board, so we didn't want to hold them up. We wanted to get them as far as we could in the process. But before they can go to final adoption, we will make sure that they have that from the school board. The project also meets the requirements with regard to urban sprawl and consistency with the comprehensive plan. There is more information in your staff report on that as well. I won't go into any specifics unless you'd like me to. But based on this, staff will recommend adoption of an ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from low-density residential to low-medium-density residential, totaling approximately 2.38 acres located on the south side of 3rd Street, approximately 1,700 feet southwest of Ridgewood Avenue, as described in Exhibit A. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. You all have questions?
The only question that I had was in regards to the flooding in that area. I talked to Brian about that today, and it looks like it's in a flood zone.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Right smack in the middle.
And I wondered, is there anything the developer can do to help raise that structure to a point where it wouldn't be as much concern?
Well, the engineer is here and could probably speak to that better than I can in when it comes to technical issues, but I can tell you that when any property is developed, they're required to compensate for that. They're also required to hold their stormwater on the site. The site can't discharge more water after it being built or developed than it did prior to development. They'll also have to be permitted through FDEP, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, as well as St. John's. So there are steps that they'll have to go through. I would venture to say that once the property is developed and it has a functioning stormwater management system, that it will be less of an issue, flooding will be less of an issue for that property, definitely, than is the case now. But the engineer can talk to you more about those issues.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? All right, engineer, you're here? Yes. Come ahead. Tell us who you are, where are you from?
Hi, good evening. My name is Timothy Bayline. I am with JB Pro, 3530 Northwest 43rd Street in Gainesville, Florida. We also have an office in St. Augustine, Florida. But to basically what Mr. Walker just explained, we have already permitted with St. John's Water Management District. All the buildings will be above the floodplain, per general FEMA standards. The stormwater systems are installed, and as he mentioned, will not discharge anything more in the post-development than they did in the pre-development. They have been calculated to make sure that is the case, so all water will be routed to the storm systems. There is a discharge structure which discharges to the Holly Hill system, but it will be in a manner that is less than the pre-development. So that should, assist with the flooding. In addition, when we put in the actual buildings, all the storm generated from them will be routed directly to the pond. So anything that's currently flooding off-site from just kind of the grassy areas would no longer be doing so. It'll be going and routing to the storm system. So everything has been done in accordance with the St. John's water management standards, and we'll be permitting with the FDP as well. Is there anything else I can explain?
Have you developed a base flood elevation for that area, for that site?
I do not know off the top of my head what that base flood elevation is. Most of that site permitting was already done back in 2005, but everything was done in accordance with that. I'll need to check back in on the FEMA flood maps on exactly what that elevation was, but I know the buildings are elevated at least a foot above that base flood.
I believe it's 5.
5?
I believe, yeah, because
That color, and I thought it was an A zone, not an AE zone, so it's an AE zone?
it is an AE zone, and the FEMA flood map shows it at a 5. So the engineer at this point, they have not submitted all of the civils. So that, I don't know, it could be that that hasn't all been worked up yet,
Right.
but they will be having to do everything with regard to infrastructure. All of the horizontal work will be submitted, and they'll, at that time, need to verify all of that.
Well, yeah, that's my understanding, and in my conversation with Brian, I know Daytona Beach, if it's 5 or 6 foot and there's a flood, you're gonna flood. It's gotta be 8 or 9 foot to not flood. If
Yes.
there's anything you can do to,
Yes,
help
I'll
with that.
make sure to look back into that to make sure we are well above the floodplain, so there's no
Contradict you a little
additional
bit.
flooding issues.
Okay.
That's not exactly so. That depends on where it is and system that's in place. So, because we have lots of areas in our city that are only 7 feet that are not flooding. So what we were looking for, you're looking for a foot of freeboard, you're looking for a base flood elevate, you're looking for to build at a foot above the base flood elevation with a foot of freeboard. So if the
Sure.
ground out there is 5, 6 feet, you're basically looking at least 2 feet more and possibly
Right.
3. So it can get up to 8 or 9, but it is not. In Daytona, I promise you, Daytona has, you get on Palmetto, there's a lot of, nothing's 8 or 9 feet high, nothing.
Oh, I
All the new
know,
construction,
I know.
all Even the new construction, so.
It's an issue all over.
Yeah, it's an issue all over, stormwater
Sure.
is an issue all over. More questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is anyone else? Heidi, Miss Heidi, would y'all like to speak?
I think Brian answered my questions, but I'll speak if you want me to.
No, ma'am, I don't, I know, I want to go home. Frankly, I want to go home, but I want us to make sure that we got this covered. All right, so there's no more questions?
No.
All right. And we only need to do one thing, we only need to do the flu for this, is that the?
Yes, the zoning is R4A, which does allow quadruplexes. That's
Okay.
a specific listed use.
All right, okay, super. Well, would you read that at the staff recommendation, please? Because I'm looking for a motion for this. Read the staff.
Yes, staff recommendation is to adopt an ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from low-density residential, LDR, to low-medium-density residential, LMDR, totaling approximately 2.38 acres, located on the south side of 3rd Street, approximately 1,700 feet southwest of Ridgewood Avenue, as described in Exhibit A.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as stated?
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Call the question, please, Ms. Wesley.
Yes.
Yes.
You got
Yeah,
two
we gotta
more.
call everybody.
You got to call everybody.
Because they first and seconded, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Let's do it one more time.
Yeah.
Let's start with the person that made the motion, and then go to the second, and then go to Mr. Casada, and then come to me last. That's it, okay.
So was it Loretta that you started? I couldn't.
Yes.
It was, okay, so Loretta,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Shelley.
Yes.
Yes, motion's approved. All right. Thank you all for coming in.
So, Chair, they will be going, just to let them know, you'll be going to City Commission on the 26th of March for first reading, and then I have you tentatively in for the 9th of April. As soon as you get your school concurrency, get that into me. If I don't have the school concurrency, by the 8th, I'll have to pull the item, okay, on the 8th of April, but you should have it by then. Yes. Okay. All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Old business? I don't think so. Anything you need to tell us?
No, sir, I think we're all up to date on everything.
Well, I think we might be done. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Doesn't require discussion. All in favor, say aye. 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 Carries. We're out of here.
That was different back then.
I think
It's possible, but, it's possible, but I'm basing it on
Nice meetings.
Have a good week.
2010.
No,
If you would do me a favor, when you're gonna
Did they say what happened to Dennis?